Certain.
Here's the Beaver County forecast on 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Cloudy skies today, then gradually becoming sunny throughout the day, reaching a high of 47 degrees. Rain tonight mainly after 3 a.m., going down to a low of 37. Rain tomorrow mainly before 1 p.m., then a chance of showers after 1 with a high near 63, and wind gusts could be as high as 41 miles per hour. Cloudy Friday with a high of 46 degrees, and for the weekend, mostly sunny Saturday with a high near 40, and sunny skies on Sunday with a high near 47. It's partly cloudy at 10 after 11 with a temperature of 41 degrees in Beaver County. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM, 95.7 FM, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Now, it's time to talk on Teleforum on Beaver County Radio. 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, and beavercountyradio.com. And now, here is the host of the show, Eddy Crow.
It's 10 minutes after 11 o'clock. It's Teleforum. It's Beaver County Radio. Time flies. On days like this, time absolutely blurs. The first hour, Sandy Agley, Beaver County Treasurer, was my guest. She almost came out and said she was running for office. Afterwards, Mike, he's running. Mike Rossi made the announcement. Well, he'd already made the announcement, but Mike Rossi, the Beaver County Prothonontary, was here. That was the last hour. And this hour, this is quickly becoming one of my favorite hours of the month for a couple of reasons. One, I'm very interested in what gets said. And two, I love talking to Charlie. Let's go ahead and add a third one. Charlie Dirt. It's garden jargon. We're going to talk about gardening, but you brought a guest with you. Dude, you're farming out your work.
Listen,
that's farming.
You taught me to get somebody else to do your job, and it only took a short period of time. I picked up on it. I figured it out.
I've told you, the longer you talk, the less I got to talk. Who's your guest? This is on Facebook. It's not a figment of his imagination. You can see this. This is being Facebook live streamed right now.
Okay, yeah. Our guest is Lenia Contes, and if her last name sounds familiar, her father-in-law is Dr. John Contes, and if you got braces in Beaver County on your kids or your grandkids, chances are her father-in-law put the braces on. So she's deeply entrenched in Beaver County through the family, and hadn't seen her for a long time. Ran into her a few weeks ago and hadn't seen her in forever. And we started her with a very modest garden in downtown Beaver Falls, and now she's got goats and raised beds and makes her own maple syrup and keeps bees and does all kinds of things. And me being the lazy person I am, I said I could turn this over to Lenia and have her talk about making maple syrup.
How long have you been making a garden that Charlie helped you with? Because if you've got to the point you got goats involved, it's been a little bit.
Yes, it's escalated very quickly. It's been years, maybe 10. I don't know. Yeah, he taught me how to put in my garlic. I killed it first, and he brought me another baggie of garlic and said, give it another go. And I still have that garlic to this day. I have been replanting it every fall, and we call it the OG Charlie garlic. That is what it's named. So,
you know what? That makes perfect sense. How did it develop from just a garden? I grow things. I have flower pots, and I grow tomatoes and peppers and stuff. But how did it go from starting a garden to literally having goats and keeping bees? And we're going to get in depth with the maple syrup in a little bit, but what made you take the next step?
Well,
'cause that's a lot of work.
I am, my husband and I are from Greek families. Our grandparents, my grandfather was a shepherd, made his cheeses. He taught me how to make yogurt, make bread. So it's just in my blood, I think. And bees always fascinated me. So I found somebody to mentor me through that, which has been a blessing. And my husband is a lumberjack, a local lumberjack.
That's still a job.
Yep. He cuts trees, and he loves it. He loves being outdoors. And he said once we moved to Chippewa, he said, let's tap these maple trees. We're right down the road from Brady's Run, where they do the Maple Syrup Festival. So
Do you have to get a license? Do you have to ask permission?
no,
I mean,
our property's our property. We're going
oh, it's
for it.
okay. These trees are on your
Yes,
property.
Yeah,
yes,
don't go to your neighbor's trees indiscriminately.
Well, you said Brady's Run, and I'm picturing you and a lumberjack out there
Yeah.
poking holes in trees. Walk me through how long a process is it? I wake up tomorrow. I'm motivated by this conversation with you. I find some maple trees that I can tap. How long a process is it? Not how involved, but just length of months.
Well, the season's like 4 to 6 weeks. You know, we're tapping our trees this weekend.
Does the state force you to buy a maple stamp before you go out and do it like they do with every other
No.
season?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, the season's like 4 to 6 weeks. You make it your own. If I can do it, anybody can do it. You can make it as complicated or as simple as you'd like. We just basically, got our taps and our tubes on Amazon and our filters, and we drill a hole in the tree, collect sap, and we boil it down. I mean, you take clear maple sap from a tree and turn it into pure maple syrup. It's unbelievable. So, yeah.
Charlie, why don't you do it?
Well, I don't have any maple. Well, I have one maple tree. But it's across in the neighbor's yard. I don't think it would go. And you need more than one tree. She can explain to you about identifying
Yeah.
the trees and how many trees you need.
Identifying, well, I mean, yeah, it's hard to identify a tree when there's no leaves on them, but
I was going to say it's a maple leaf. It's like the Canadian hockey
Right,
jersey,
right.
but in the winter,
yeah.
you got to know more than that. Was
Yeah.
that any information that you had before you decided to do this?
No,
Or
we knew
just,
nothing.
We're hitting it.
That's it, yeah. So as far as identifying trees, you just should marry a lumberjack. It's much easier that way. I can't identify the trees, but you basically look at the bark this time of year, and
Okay.
that will kind of be the indicator. But my husband, he identifies the trees. We do about 7 to 10 trees a year, and we only pull enough sap. We usually get about 2 gallons by the end of the season of maple syrup.
Okay.
So we pull enough just to get us by for the year. We're on our last 2 jars of maple syrup from last year now. So
This is not something where you're bottling your maple syrup and,
No.
and selling it. It's not
No.
big enough scale to do that.
no, we're pretty simple. We fire up. It's actually beautiful. You can do this with your family. It's so much fun. And the first boil of the season is the best. You light a fire, you throw on your pot of sap, and roast some marshmallows, get your hot dogs. Just spend the whole day outside boiling sap all day. And it's beautiful.
It's an excuse to start a fire.
That's it. Yeah. Start a fire when it's 40 degrees outside and
And
enjoy it.
if your husband's a lumberjack, you got a lot of wood handy, right?
That's
That's-
it. We're fully stocked and prepared.
What's the window? When you go out and you say, all right, we're going to tap these trees, from the day you tap the trees until the day you get your personal stash of maple syrup, how long does it take?
Well, we usually start tapping once it's like 40 degrees outside. The nights have to be 20 degrees. You want that maple sap to flow. You want the trees to be heated by the sun, and that's what causes the flow, the sap to actually start.
20 degrees doesn't prohibit the flow?
Well, that's nighttime, but during the day is when the sap starts flowing. Your buckets are going to be filling. You got to check them every day. But once the trees start budding, once the maple tree buds start forming, we pull the tap. Season is over. Boil the rest of your sap, make the rest of your syrup, and that's it. The year's done. So, yeah.
I got a question. Do you have trouble with bugs getting in the buckets when you're
Well, yes, and
or other
the
furry creatures for this week?
Yeah, the squirrels can get a little curious. So we use food grade buckets. We get them from our local restaurants here in the town.
What is a food grade bucket? A
well,
bucket
you
with
just-
a lid?
Yeah, a bucket with a lid, but
Okay.
you don't want a bucket that was used for
paint?
detergent or paint. Yes, correct. You
The
want it to
maple
be
syrup
storing
tastes
feta
like
cheese.
turpentine, Daddy.
You want a feta cheese bucket or something like that.
Okay.
Something that had food in it, not detergents, chemicals like that. So food grade bucket, always with lids. You don't have to use food grade buckets. You can use a recycled gallon milk jug if you'd like. There's different ways to collect the actual sap.
How do you go out? You just drill a hole and hang a bucket? That
That's-
sounds really simple.
It is
There's got to
simple.
be more to it.
Anybody can do it, I promise. And there's no 2 trees alike. You can have 2 maple trees next to each other, same size. One might be healthier than the other, and it's going to produce 20 gallons that season. And the one next to it might only give you 6. And so you don't know until you try. Get
What
out
is
there.
20 gallons going to get me? Because I know when you boil stuff down, stuff evaporates.
Yes.
So I'm getting, if you're taking 20 gallons out of a tree, what are you getting with maple syrup at the end?
Well, with a sugar maple, 20 gallons of sap will probably give you a half gallon of pure maple syrup. So it's a 40-to-1 ratio. So 40 gallons of clear liquid sap will get you a gallon of maple syrup, give or take. Usually that's the ratio.
Is it possible to make a living doing this if you have access to a stand of trees? That sounds incredibly labor intensive for a relatively small yield from what you start with.
It is a small yield, but this is wild food. This is like nothing you can get from anywhere else. This is something you want to give to your kids. It has magnesium, zinc, so many minerals and vitamins in it. I mean, I know people who don't even boil it. They take the sap from the tree, filter it, and drink it because there's so many nutrients and nutritional benefits in that sap.
And no pesticides and herbicides.
That's
and all
it.
All right.
Look at your bottles in the grocery store. It's corn syrup, it's sugars, it's dyes. It's not real. This is real maple syrup.
Was that part of the motivation
Absolutely.
to get away
Simplify.
from it? Is it simplifying organically or is it simplifying commercially?
Well,
I understand that I love, and Charlie and I have talked about this, the best tasting tomatoes are the ones that I go out and pick out of my garden.
absolutely.
But there's also that other side of the commercialization. Well, I know that these tomatoes didn't get sprayed with something. Did that attitude come along for you when you became a mom, or was that always there?
I think that was always there.
Yeah.
Just always aware before we had kids, always aware of what was in our foods, our meats. We don't buy chicken from the grocery store. We raise all of our chickens on
Really?
our property. Yes.
Oh, I want to talk to you about chickens.
Hey, I told you, she's a real country girl.
Yeah, and we buy our beef from a local farm in Ohio.
Yeah.
And that's just what we do. You know, we do buy like fish and things like that from the grocery stores, but we always just wanted to simplify, you know, just clean it up a little bit where we can, where we're able to. Why not? Why not?
Making fewer steps along the footprint.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
I'm going to get back to maple syrup, but is there any animal nastier, dumber, and more vicious
Oh boy.
than a chicken?
The
Be honest, because I see this in the city. Lenia, I see people in Bloomfield. They've got chickens, and I'm thinking, have they been around chickens yet? They're not pleasant animals. Deep fried, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
As conversationalists, no.
Well,
What did you know about chickens when you said, let's get chickens?
what did I know? I know they give us eggs.
Okay.
We like to keep animals that will give back and produce.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where it started. Hey, fresh eggs. I mean, the comparison between an egg from your backyard and an egg from the grocery store is unbeatable. You will not beat it.
I have had that opportunity. It's not the same egg in any way, shape, or form.
That's it.
Now, what's the worst thing about a chicken that you've learned? Because I've been around them. They're
Eddie,
evil.
this is a family show.
Have you noticed that if one chicken has an injury, the other chickens are going to spend the rest of the day trying to off that one?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot that goes into all of this.
Chickens are mobbed up,
they're-
man. They don't play.
Yeah. And then when you get into meat birds, those are just a whole different breed. We like to call them Frankensteins. They just have no brain.
No,
They don't even like to forage sometimes, depending on the breed that you get.
not even smart enough to walk around looking for their own food.
No,
Think
they're
about
not.
that.
They're not that smart, no. But the egg layers, they're good. They're good to us. Usually they pay their rent if they're good. You know, the winter time, they kind of slack off a little bit, freeload.
Is that
But,
is that an economic option? I'm not talking about killing your chickens and selling sandwiches. I'm talking about selling eggs.
Sure, why not?
Is that something in the future for your farm?
On our farm, I mean, we could if we wanted to. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, but this is just something we do for our family. We have enough chickens to, you know, give us enough eggs when we need them. Like I said, we pull enough syrup to get us through the year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, honey. You know, we're still new to the honey, you know, situation, but sometimes you do end up with too much honey. So absolutely, that is something we would sell. You know, because sometimes you can end up with too much. This year we only got a little bit, so we kept it for ourselves. But no, I don't know if I would get into selling of these things. Just something small scale, no stress. Make it what we want, you know. keep it simple.
Let me tell you something, Eddie, from personal experience. When you're doing what she's doing, it's fun. It's enjoyable. It's rewarding.
Yeah.
When you're doing it for the dollar,
when you're doing it to sell,
the fun goes out of it. The
That's
fun
it.
goes out of it.
the farmers, I love the farmers markets. Every town in Beaver County, one day of the week, they got their own farmers market. That's where that stuff shows up. I think that's great. You get more out of it just being in control of the process, don't you?
That's it. Just having fun with it. No stress. Hey, if we don't get enough, if we only get a half gallon of maple syrup or 4 eggs today, it's okay.
Which pleases you
stress.
more, knowing that you're getting honey from your bees, or you've got bees in the world that the world needs bees.
Man, bees are a whole next level. It's the bees teach me all the time. Like I said, I'm still learning. This will be my 3rd year keeping bees, but both. I mean, just to have that honey sitting on your shelf, like those little tiny insects made this honey. It's just unbelievable what they can do.
And the bee population the last decade has been in big between pesticides and,
Yep.
and there's some kind of parasite that gets into the hives and stuff.
Yes, the mites. Yes.
Mites.
So you have to keep up with all of that. Like I said, I'm very lucky. I have my neighbor. He is so good to me. So he teaches me, and yes, and I bake, galato burrico for him.
Yeah.
Custard Greek pie.
It's Teleforum. Charlie Dirt is here. It's Garden Jargon. Charlie Dirt and Lenia Contes. Did I get it close?
That's it.
I'm
you
trying to
got it.
Greek it up.
Lenia, let me lend you a penny. Lenia.
Let me get you to lend me some of that honey. More after news. It's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
The best of Beaver County is easy to discover. It's right here on your radio. Tune in Beaver County Radio or watch the best of Beaver County live on Facebook or YouTube video this and every Thursday from 11 to 11:30. The program is made possible by St. Barnabas. For over 3 years now, the show has been dedicated to shining light on the great things going on right here in your neighborhood and the people that are making it happen. This Thursday, enjoy conversation and insight from an intriguing lineup of guests who are creating excitement and having an impact right here in Beaver County. Your friends and neighbors at St. Barnabas are pleased to support the best of Beaver County. The radio broadcast will also be replayed each week from 11:30 to noon on Sundays on Beaver County Radio. Archived Best of Beaver County videos can be viewed on the WBVP WMBA Facebook page. It's your chance to encounter the best of Beaver County with host Mike Romai this Thursday starting at 11. For more information, visit beavercountyradio.com.
Hi, folks. I'm with our good friend John Diagardi from Roe Monument. John, you were telling me earlier that people really should not rush into choosing a memorial for their loved one. Now, why is that?
We found that families need to take ample time to grieve first. Grief is not something that we get over, but rather something that we learn to live with. So the length of time to grieve varies from person to person.
You mentioned that the monument can't be placed right away.
That's right. There are certain things that need to take place before a monument can be installed. So it's really worth taking time to think about how to plan and design a memorial that truly reflects a person's life. It's actually a healing activity that helps to alleviate grief.
John, this makes a lot of sense.
It does, and when the time is right to proceed, not only can Roe Monument help families choose and design their memorial, we can help them save as much as 50% by eliminating the middleman.
Thank you, John. Folks, you can learn more simply by visiting RoeMonuments.com.
The King is Coming, a tribute to the King of Rock and Roll by Craig Newell on February 11th at the Merrick Art Gallery in New Brighton. Enjoy a great evening listening to some of Elvis's famous songs, Jailhouse Rock, Suspicious Minds, Love Me Tender, just to name a few. Get all shook up at the Merrick Art Gallery on February 11th. Tickets are $40 per person. After the show, Elvis's favorite eats will be available, included in the purchase of your ticket. Call 724-846-1130 or stop by the Merrick Art Gallery to purchase your tickets.
Wintertime is when performance matters the most. That's because water can turn to ice. This is the Aquaman of Beaver County, Jim Riggio from the Beaver Falls Municipal Authority. Whether it's fighting off the evils of underground pipes freezing or taking an extra shift on the ice during a power play, me and my team know how to react when it's on the line. From sinks to rinks, if it needs water this winter, you know you can depend on the Aquamen and women of Beaver Falls Municipal Authority. Click bfwater.net.
What is dedication?
I am the father of a 9-year-old little girl and a 6-year-old little boy, and I find fatherhood both relentlessly challenging and relentlessly rewarding. My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much. From the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night and every moment in between, it really is so special, and boy, is it exhausting. One thing that I fear about being a parent is the future for my children. I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings. But I'm also hopeful that the future holds a more inclusive and compassionate world for them.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Tune in every Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. for another insightful edition of Living Well, a special segment on Beaver County Radio designed to help you enjoy the best, most fulfilling, and healthiest life possible. Hosted by Dr. Joseph Maroon and Jeff Boast, and presented by St. Barnabas. Living Well, Saturday mornings at 8:30. Right here on Beaver County Radio, WBVP Beaver Falls, WMBA Ambridge, along with 99.3 FM and 95.7 FM. Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Curtis Walsh.
Good morning. We can expect cloudy skies today, becoming gradually sunny throughout the day, reaching a high of 47 degrees. We'll have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after this look at news. It's still unclear when people near the East Palestine train derailment will be able to return home. Environmental officials say they want to ensure the air is safe before lifting the evacuation order. Some residents from the village of East Palestine say they're nervous about returning even when the evacuation order is lifted. PEMA Director Randy Padfield released the following update yesterday afternoon. The Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency continues to closely monitor the situation in eastern Ohio and its effects on southwestern Pennsylvania. As continues to be the case, no concerning air quality readings have been detected, and for now, out of an abundance of caution, Pennsylvanians who were evacuated from their homes should continue to stay away from the site. We know how difficult it is to leave your home and thank Pennsylvanians for their continued cooperation. We are working with Norfolk Southern and our partners in Ohio to get people back in their homes as soon as it is safe to do so. Pennsylvanians who live within 2 miles of East Palestine where this derailment occurred should continue to shelter in place and keep their windows and doors closed. Numerous roads along Route 51 are still closed out past Chippewa and near Darlington. For a complete list of closures, visit beavercountyradio.com. A press conference with more updates on the situation is scheduled for today. New grant funding of $178,300 will help fire companies in the 16th Legislative District replenish resources and meet operating expenses, State Representative Rob Matzey announced. Matzey said 12 fire companies will receive funding under the Fire Company and Emergency Medical Services Grant Program. Departments include Ambridge, Baden, Center Township, Aliquippa, Conway, Freedom, Harmony Township, Hopewell Township, and Rochester Township. The Fire Company and Emergency Medical Service Grant Program is administered by the Office of the State Fire Commissioner. Funding may be used for facility upgrades, equipment, debt reduction, training and certification, education and public outreach, and recruitment and retention efforts. Fire companies were also permitted to apply for savings accounts for new facility construction. A Pennsylvania judge says the state's funding of public education falls woefully short and violates students' constitutional rights. The decision issued Tuesday in a long-running case sides with poorer districts that are seeking billions of dollars in additional annual support. Commonwealth Court Judge Renee Cohn-Jubileer says that the state hasn't fulfilled its constitutional obligations to the poorest public schools. She says that violates those students' rights to what she said should be a comprehensive, effective, and contemporary system. Lawyers for the districts and others who sued are hailing the decision as a historic victory for students. Democrats have won control of the Pennsylvania House by sweeping 3 special elections, gaining new power in an important swing state. Democrats won the vacant Pittsburgh area House seats up for election Tuesday to claim a slim majority over Republicans. The victories bring an end to a dozen years of Republican power in the chamber, though the GOP still controls the Senate. The partisan divide could make it difficult for lawmakers to send priorities to new Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro. Democrats appeared to have won the House last November, but one Democrat died of cancer and 2 others resigned for higher offices, leaving control of the chamber uncertain.
Here's the Beaver County forecast on 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Cloudy skies today, then gradually becoming sunny throughout the day, reaching a high of 47 degrees. Rain tonight mainly after 3 a.m., going down to a low of 37. Rain tomorrow mainly before 1 p.m., then a chance of showers after 1 with a high near 63, and wind gusts could be as high as 41 miles per hour. Cloudy Friday with a high of 46 degrees, and for the weekend, mostly sunny Saturday with a high near 40, and sunny skies on Sunday with a high near 47. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM, 95.7 FM, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
St. Barnabas thanks you for listening to Beaver County Radio.
1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, 95.7 FM. This is also being live streamed on Facebook. And you say, well, you only live stream things on Facebook if it's a big occasion. Right, it is. Charlie Dirt's here. It's Garden Jargon. Charlie brought with him Lenia. And Lenia, I'm going to sing the song Lydia in my head, and I'm going to be annoying with it, and I apologize. You have been talking about, among other things, doing your own maple syrup. And I want to go back real quick. You got into gardening how long ago? How did Charlie get you into it? Because I know you said before you asked him for help, and it looks like you dove deep into it.
Definitely. Charlie introduced me to, he used to bring me his red peppers. I still have those seeds. Charlie's red peppers. We saved them all. But I wanted to grow garlic, something new. You know, when I started, I used to go to the farmer's market and just get a couple plants and put them in. I never really grew from seed.
That's why I'm asking, because that's where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's how we started, easy, and then we learned, eventually Charlie was bringing me seeds. Put these in the ground,
Does it, now wait a minute. A dude looking like him, and go on Facebook to see. A dude looking like Charlie bringing you seeds. Was there at least a hint of hesitancy?
No way.
Okay.
No way.
Eddie, would you grow seeds if a guy with a 3-piece suit come in and gave you the seeds?
I would feel like he was a broker. Very valid point by you.
Yeah. And the thing is, it broke my heart because her first garlic thing was a failure, and it was all my fault because I neglected to tell her, don't go to the grocery store and buy the garlic.
That's right.
Because they spray it, or they put some kind of an inhibitor so it'll stay in a grocery store for 2 lifetimes, but it won't grow when you grow it. So once she knew to either go to the farmer's market and get started or get some more from me, then she knew what to do. And like, what, your first garden was the size of his desk, maybe?
Oh, tiny.
Yeah.
Downtown Beaver Falls, tiny little garden I had.
Yeah, and now I hadn't seen her for a long time, and I run into her a few weeks ago, and she said, "You got to come see my place. I got goats, I got chickens, I got bees, I make my own honey, and I got holy smokes!" And I said, "There's a show. We got a show."
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you went full Little House on the Prairie.
Yep.
Whose idea was goats? Because I've been around goats too.
Listen, I'm all about feta cheese and fresh yogurt. Now, I want to milk my own goat. I want to know where that milk came from.
Yeah.
Straight from the tap. So, why not?
Where does one go in Beaver County to purchase a goat?
Well, you got to know goat people. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, find your people.
Amazon, go on Amazon,
there
look for
go.
goats.
Order your goat.
You want a local goat. You don't want goat shipped from somewhere else.
Chickens are the gateway drug to this farm community, and that's where it all began. I met so many people just doing that,
Just with chickens.
That's it. And then I found, wonderful people who guided me through the way and, who had goats.
Well, let's continue the breakfast theme. When do pigs come into the equation?
Know. After baby number 3 is born, maybe we'll think about it. We've got a baby on the way, so we're pumping the brakes this year. We're taking it nice and slow. But next year, we've talked about it. Maybe get some fresh bacon on the table.
The old farmers used to say, that pigs will pay the mortgage.
That's it.
Because it's like 7 months or something from being born to being able to market them.
How much you spend versus how much you get.
Right, right. And I want to ask Lenia something. We talked a little bit off the air. Tell me about maple sugar. Tell me about making maple sugar.
Maple sugar. So, I said.
Not maple syrup, maple sugar.
Maple sugar.
Okay.
So, like I said, we started maple syrup, tapping our trees. We knew nothing. We just kind of, read and tweaked, and every year made it better and better. Well, last year, one of us fell asleep while we were boiling, and I had forgotten, and I woke up and I said, oh my goodness. We were watching a show, we fell asleep, and we overboiled it. And when you overboil, it will cause crystallization. I said, don't worry, we're going to figure this out. I got on the Google, and I'm Googling how to save this, because you spent all day boiling this sap down.
And in 4 weeks gathering the sap.
Yeah, and I'm like, we're not going to lose this.
It's not about money. It's about we've got a whole lot of effort, blood, sweat, and tears invested in this. Let's do something.
This is good stuff.
Yeah.
This isn't going down the drain. So, I'm reading and reading. Usually you stop boiling at 219. That's your maple syrup. If you go over, like I said, it will cause crystallization, but you keep going to 260 degrees and you start stirring it. I got the hand mixer out and we were mixing it. Turned it right into maple sugar, the most beautiful thing you will ever see, feel, or taste. It was just glorious, and I think we'll do it again this year.
How long did it take to get it completely dried out? I'm curious, because I love maple sugar is the only way that anybody should ever eat oatmeal.
Oh, yes, absolutely. On the oatmeal in your coffee. Not long. I think we left it on like a sheet pan overnight, I think, just to kind of let it settle, a couple days maybe, and then we jarred it up and was beautiful.
How was the start and stop when you were getting into the maple syrup? That 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Did you learn by making mistakes, or did you stay ahead?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's in anything that you do, anything new you try. You have to learn from your mistakes. That's just how you get better at anything. So when we started, we always had just like pots, just regular pots from the house. Well, we ruined some of those pots. So now we thrift and find things, that we can use. Now this year we're going to start doing shallow pans. We always used pots, big stock pots, turkey fryer pots. And now we're going to do shallow pans. It supposedly boils and evaporates quicker. So we're going to try that. But like I said, every year we tweak it. We try new things. And you just keep learning as you go. That's the only way.
You're going to have to watch it closer in a shallow pan.
Watch it much closer, yes. And so, like I said, you collect your sap. Usually once a week we try and boil our sap down once we've accumulated enough. And throughout the day you keep adding more and more sap into that pot or, and it just keeps boiling all day. And by the end of the day, it'll start turning that amber color. And soon enough, you will have your, maple syrup. But it just takes time. It's not a slow process. You have to have patience. So the first boil of the season, always open fire. Always open fire. We take the girls outside. We put a blanket down, marshmallows, hot dogs. Last year we inoculated our mushroom logs, while it was boiling.
This sounded vulgar. Wait a minute, back up. How do you inoculate a mushroom log?
Well, you have to drill holes in the log and you tap in the spores, cover them with wax and lay them in the shade, water them and lay them in the shade where they will grow mushrooms. So that was our first year. Last year we did it. This was our first year getting shiitake mushrooms, which was awesome. So that was, really fun, but something to do outside with the kids, make it fun. But after the first boil, we usually, my husband will set up a turkey fryer. So while I'm cooking, cleaning, taking care of my children, I could just pop out the back door, check the maple syrup and add more sap if we need to. That way I can regulate it better. I don't have to be standing by a fire loading it with logs all day. we made it our own. We made it, simple for ourselves. I can open the back door, add some more sap into the pot, and keep an eye on it that way. So we kind of use a turkey fryer and gas, which, so you're, using gas, but it works for us. And that's how I'm able to monitor it all day long while tending to children as well.
How much is the motivation coming from feeding yourself in one sense or another? And how much of your motivation comes from knowing the source? And you talked a lot about the family involvement.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much bigger is that? Because when you first started a garden, I saw the pictures of the garden. It's a beautiful little garden, but you're not thinking we're going to get the kids involved in this. Talk about the evolution of I want to do a garden to I want my family to understand a concept.
Yes, understanding the concept is very big for me. I believe in, passing down knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Half the time we have no clue where anything came from.
I disagree. I would go well past half the time. I think you're being very polite.
Most people have no clue how to, I just found out paprika is a red pepper.
It's
Paprika
dried.
is dried red pepper.
flakes.
I had no clue.
Those peppers that I gave you the seeds for,
Yes.
they make the best paprika
There
in
we
the
go.
world.
Those are going in the garden this year.
Yeah, they're peppers. They just Greek sounded it up with a different name.
Right. And most people have no idea. They thought it was this, ethnic spice. No, and 50, 60 years ago, everybody had gardens. The grocery stores were tiny. There wasn't a whole shelf for cereal and coffee creamers. It was one option. That's it.
Yeah,
you went to buy sugar and coffee and those kind of things you couldn't provide for yourself.
Right.
and baking powder.
And baking powder.
Baking powder.
And if you grow your hot peppers and you dry them and you grind them, that is so much more pungent and so much better than anything you can get. And most of the time, the paprika, the regular that you buy in a grocery store, I'm going to use a bad word, garbage. it's my mom used to say it gives it color. That's all it does. But if you make it out of and you can even dry green peppers,
Mm-hmm.
and in wintertime you're making a meatloaf or some soup or something. You want that pepper flavor. We talked about dehydrating,
Mhm.
but I just growing mushrooms in a log, man.
Yep. I just, that's where it all came from. I just believe, if we don't learn it now, when does that happen? How far are we going to go?
Is there any conspiratorial feeling of we better learn this because the world's going to end? You're not tying that into it, are you?
Listen, I like to be prepared. I like to know what's going on.
Have you
so
gotten
why not? Why not have that knowledge?
Have you gotten involved in canning yet?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Started canning a few years ago. And now we're full throttle. We started with pickles and now we're just soups and my bone broth. I don't have to freeze it anymore. Now I have a pressure canner and I can put it on the shelf. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
Any of the things that you've canned available to me? When you said bone broth, it's like, really?
Absolutely.
And you talk about people not knowing. If you walk down 7th Street or 7th Avenue right now in downtown Beaver Falls and you said, hey, I got some bone broth for you,
Yep.
would people know?
Maybe not. Maybe some do know. I think that's like a big thing now, the collagen and the peptides and the, the bone broth. But there's a lot of things we haven't bought from the grocery store in a long time. Garlic, for one thing. Thank you, Charlie, for that. Bone broth, beets, green beans. There's a lot of stuff that I canned pineapple this year just because it was on sale and I was like, why not? Pineapple. Put it in your smoothies, give it to the kids. They love it. Pineapple.
Well, you can grow a pineapple.
I learned that.
Charlie, how much better do you feel about the future knowing that there are people like Lenia that are not buying into the concept to strike a pose? They're buying into the concept because it's a concept that worked forever, and it was the ability to take care of yourself.
Right, and we talked about that the other day, a legacy.
Yeah.
I feel that her family is like a legacy. And like you said, if you can leave this earth, you're getting ready to go to wherever you're going to go, which I'm afraid where I'm going to go. But anyway, if you can look and say, I helped this person or that person, and then Lenia's going to say, my daughters learned how to do this from my husband and me, and hopefully they'll pass. And you know what? And with the urbanization, a lot of people can't do it. They're living in these little cubicles in these little places, and they're lucky if they got a window box. Lenia went out to the country. She was lucky enough. She lived during a time you could still get some property out in the country.
Yes.
You could do that, and that makes me feel good just knowing that happened.
Yeah. It's a more simple life, slow, just a slower life.
Do you miss the frenzy part of life?
No, I like making my own bread. It takes me a whole day. You got to let it rise. You got to fold it. You got to stretch it out. Then you got to bake it. It's beautiful. It's just you can't beat it.
Eddie, let me tell you something.
Nice and slow.
She told me, well, she does marketing for 6 restaurants that her family owns. She's a very technical savvy person too.
Yeah.
You don't find that in the same person. You either got one or the other. She's doing both.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why? Is that part of what drew you to that? That it was the opposite of your job? I guess. Just a different way to go about the day.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. It's just I'm home with the kids.
Mhm.
Now that I don't do dental hygiene anymore, and
Oh.
it's nice. It's something to keep me busy. I'm a very busy body. I have to keep moving, and I'm gearing my energy towards something good, something that'll benefit my children, something they can learn from if they choose to, follow in my footsteps.
What's the next thing that's going to get added to the family garden? You got chickens.
Well, the chickens aren't in a garden. Chickens are.
They will be if you don't watch them.
Yeah, I know.
And then you have chicken for supper that night as an example to the rest.
That is one of the things. I mean, once you get to the point where your entire dinner was grown, even down to the garlic powder, was grown from you.
Nothing on the table came from a store.
Our chicken, our green beans, our own tomato sauce, our garlic, our onions. That feeling is just unbelievable. It really is. It's like that. Pat yourself on the back.
And when you're recycling your seeds and growing your own plants from the beginning, then that's the next echelon. You're not just going to the greenhouse and buying a flat of plants. You said, I saved these red pepper seeds and I'm going to grow these red peppers. It just is, it's an evolving thing. If you have a mindset like her and her family, there is no limit. There is. I'll probably go out there and I don't know. She'll have bison out there.
We have Franco the donkey. He's our herd protector for our goats.
Franco the donkey.
Franco the donkey. He's a mini donkey. He is a sweet boy, and maybe one day we'll find him a wife too. But
is he getting a little antsy?
He might be. So our goats are actually pregnant right now. We're expecting babies March, April.
Okay.
So we'll be back in milk, making cheese, yogurts, back where we want to be. That is just to have a wheel of cheese. That's like I
gotta ask you because I get it. The goats provide the milk and it's feta and it's wonderful. I've had many dishes in my life that had goat in it. That seems like a relatively small animal to start down that road. I had asked about hogs, pigs earlier. Is that ever going to be a consideration? Or once you name them, it's over, isn't it?
Well, you don't have to give him a name. If it's a boy and you're thinking, well,
Boy goat.
he's not going to give us milk, so we either sell him or we raise him for meat. Why not? Feed your family.
My family would have been so much better off approaching my life that way.
What I told you, she named the groundhog. She's not naming it. Well, she's telling me, she said, I got this garden, and we're talking, and she said, I got this groundhog, and I named him.
No.
And I'm like, it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
You never name something you might have to shoot
right.
later.
Yep. Well, when you have kids, that gets harder too.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that.
We got a turkey for Thanksgiving. We were raising turkeys, and my youngest, she named it Moana. I said, great, now the turkey has a name. So the turkey is our best friend.
Was that a weird transition? If you're coming from, and Charlie knows this, and I know this, that's a part of farming. Those animals are great, but those animals are for a purpose, and it's not necessarily a pleasant purpose if it's named Moana.
Yes. Even just, when it's time to take, the chickens to freezer camp. It's a hard day.
Is that what it's called?
That's what we call it, freezer camp.
That's the most delicate decapitation title I've ever heard.
You know what? But it's a blessing, and we raise those animals knowing that they're going to feed our family. We know what's in them, and we gave them such a good life too. They're free ranging, they're getting sunshine, and
you're a chicken. Get over it.
Do the coyotes come around looking for your chickens?
They better not.
Because you got coyotes out there, that you hear them.
We hear them. We hear them at nighttime.
Yeah, that's what the donkey's for.
That's it. Yeah. And so yes, it gets a little harder once you have kids and they're giving them names, but it's okay. You can keep a couple turkeys and put a couple in freezer camp. Why not? Find a
Freezer
happy
camp.
camp.
I love that.
That's my new band name.
There you go.
Charlie Dirt and Lenia Contes, my guest. It's Garden Jargon. What should I have asked either of you that I didn't? I've just been giggling the entire hour, flashing back to chicken camp or freezer camp. You ever see somebody wring a chicken's neck?
Okay.
My grandfather did that in front of me one day, and that'll stick with you, buddy.
My friend and I, we're like 10 years old, out in Economy Borough. There wasn't no subdivisions. It was all out in the country. And there was this little old lady. She was, that's not politically correct. There was this elderly lady, senior, and my buddy's name was Timmy. And we're walking down the road, 10, 11 years old.
Timmy.
And she says, Timmy, come here for a minute, okay? So we go over, and she picks up this chicken, okay? And she says, just get a good hold on him. And we're saying, and she grabbed the chicken by the head, and she went, "Roomp," you know. And I'm standing there going, oh, my God, you know.
Oh,
but then you realize that's where the chicken meat comes from.
Absolutely.
And it had stopped laying.
Absolutely.
It had stopped laying, so it was soup.
No, that's
it.
dear friend of mine got into chickens for about 2 years and then said, this is insane. These are horrible creatures. And exactly that. When they stopped laying, he was happy. It's like, that's one less chicken. We're having chicken for Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute delight.
Didn't I tell you it'd be?
Talking to her.
Oh, yeah.
You're
Thank you
all
for
right.
having me.
Charlie Dirt, Lenia Contes. The marrow stuff, see me after class on that. We're going to hook that up. I am hungry and nostalgic
Teach
at the
him
same
how to
time.
do it.
Oh,
Teach him
that's
how to,
easy. That's
you got a
easy.
pressure cooker?
Yeah.
That's it. Pressure cooker.
She'll show you how
What
to
kind of well-respecting redneck wouldn't have a pressure cooker?
Well, the
I thought you knew me.
pressure cooker and a deep fryer, man. That's my two. You know.
And the air
And you're all
fryer
set.
to strike a pose of
No,
snooty.
we're not doing air fryer.
No air fryer.
No air fryers. Dries the chicken out.
No, the chicken comes out of the freezer camp and straight into the air fryer. That's my plan.
Well, that's it for today's show. Thanks for tuning in to Garden Jargon with Charlie Dirt, right here on Beaver County Radio. Garden Jargon was brought to you in part Beaver County Radio 95.7, 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and BeaverCountyRadio.com.
Have you noticed bad behavior has become normalized at interscholastic athletic events? Some fans seem angry. They lack civility toward one another. Some even get aggressive and unruly. Time out! What is going on? This has to stop. Let's not forget, school sports aren't just about winning. And they're definitely not an excuse to take your frustrations out on the official or the opponent. They're about teaching lessons like perseverance, respect, and empathy, so students can learn and grow as people, not just as players. We all have a role to play in setting a good example for our students and teaching them these important values. So fans, it's time to step up your game and behave positively at Interscholastic.